Hello, you wonderful people, you. Welcome to another episode of Beatdowns with the Boz. Today we have essentially the same deck as last week with two minor changes. We are playing Jund, because Jund is great, and I cut one Fulminator Mage from the sideboard to make room for this one Magma Spray, and I switched a Maelstrom Pulse and Kolaghan's Command in the sideboard. So I had 2 and 2 of each. But last week I had 2 Maelstrom Pulse, 1 command in the main and 1 command in the sideboard, and now it's the reverse. I'm preparing for the Invitational this weekend, which is going to be the first big event where people are going to be able to play Ancestral Visions and the Thopter Sword of the Meat combo, which has been unbanned. So that should be pretty interesting. That should shake up the format quite a bit, but I still think Jund is just going to be a great choice. A lot of people think that with the addition of a new deck, the whole format's going to change, and the Thopter decks are definitely going to be probably one of the premier decks of the format. I think they'll be good, but I don't think they're going to be doing anything broken or more powerful than a lot of the things that are already being done in Modern. I think it's just going to be another good deck on the table. So I don't really feel like I need to skew or change my Jund deck. I just wanted to make the trim 1 Fulminator for the Magma Spray just to make things a little bit more well-rounded for a big open field, which is what I expect at the Invitational. So the reason being is that Fulminator Mages are, the reason that I made the changes, Fulminator Mages are great against the big mana decks that aren't super fast. So like Tron. Fulminator Mage wasn't actually that great against Amulet Bloom, but so I've got, just 3 Fulminator Mages that should be able to suffice. And then the Magma Spray has a lot of utility against Affinity, against Infect, against random Abzan Company decks, and any deck that's playing Voice of Resurgence can be a little pesky. So Magma Spray rounds things out kind of nicely, just so that I have a little bit more early defense. For those of you who missed us last week, just to give you a really quick rundown of Jund. Jund is the premier mid-range control deck in the format of Modern. It just plays a bunch of super solid cards, and it interacts with your opponent in a diversity of ways. So you're never really in a situation where you're just not interacting with your opponent, like, at all. Like, you always have some interaction. And the deck has so many 2-for-1s that all you have to do is interact with someone, and eventually you'll just grind them out. So you can interact with their hand, with discard spells. You have cheap removal to take down creatures. You also have access to things that kill artifacts and enchantments. You have, some really efficient threats in Tarmogoyf. Dark Confidant's great card advantage. Liliana is another great way to attack someone's hand, as well as being able to edict them, in case you're up against something like Boggles. And then just to top it out, these are the cards that kind of put away the game. Scavenging Ooze gives you a little bit of graveyard interaction, as well as buffers your life total. Huntmaster of the Fels is not as powerful as some of the other 4-drops, but Huntmaster of the Fels has the most impact the turn it comes into play. So essentially, a good way of looking at it is, if I have room for 4-drops in my deck, playing Huntmaster of the Fels is the best 4-drop to play when I'm only on 4 mana. Pia and Kiran Nalaar and Olivia Voldaren are better in longer games, so that's why I have the split. The one other thing to note is that I'm playing 3 Raging Ravines. Sometimes the creature lands that people play in Jund fluctuate a little bit. In the past, I've liked Treetop Village a lot, but for lately, I've just been on Raging Ravine. And the one thing that's kind of a relic of when Amulet was legal is I really bent over backwards to try to make that matchup favorable, and I figured out a way to embed Ghost Quarter in my main deck, and now it's just stuck. And the way that I did it was I'm only playing 3 Blackcleave Cliffs. So this one Ghost Quarter has not given me any problems yet, and despite the Amulet Bloom deck basically being neutered, Ghost Quarter ends up having some nice utility against Infect and Affinity, because their Inkmoth Nexuses can be some of their best threats. And Ghost Quarter gives a nice way to interact with that. Also, Ghost Quarter in the Jund Mirror is a nice way to shut off your opponent's creature lands, and without making it so that you're playing another come into play tap land, which can make things a little clunky. So I think for the most part, a lot of this is just pretty stock. The Kalitas is a new addition, but I like to keep my Jund deck super classic. I never play any 5-drops, although I will admit that as I've been thinking about decks that may crop up with Ancestral Visions in the past, when decks that had Restoration Angel and Celestial Colonnade were popular, one card that I really liked in my sideboard was one Bituminous Blast, but it's not going to go that far. Like I said, I'm really not a fan of the 5-drops. The Jund deck is already, it is a little clunky for modern standards, and I don't really want to make that weakness even more prominent. So, but this is basically what I think are the best cards. The cards that I think that are up for debate are the Kalitas, the Shatterstorm, Magma Spray, and the 3 Kitchen Finks. Those are the cards that can fluctuate. Also, this Duress isn't always in, but essentially these cards here are almost never change, and what's in my main deck almost never changes. So occasionally something will move around a little bit, like if I think that they're, like, depending on what I'm going to face, sometimes I'll have a Grim Lavamancer in my main deck. But typically speaking, this is just what I run with. Another notable thing is that I don't have Tasigur. I know I got some questions about that. And the reason that I don't play Tasigur is just a Tarmogoyf that you can't play on turn 2. One of the best things about Tarmogoyf is just going Thoughtseize your opponent, turn 2 Tarmogoyf. And you just get to, kind of knock them off kilter and start rushing them down. The Tasigur, you take a ton of damage off Dark Confidant. And the other thing, too, is Tasigur, it's not like Olivia or Pia and Kiran Nalaar where it can take over the game. Tasigur's ability to draw cards is really slow. It's really mana intensive, and especially in game 1, where you're likely to have some cards that aren't great in the matchup, you're unlikely to actually get cards from Tasigur that are great. Also, compared to Huntmaster of the Fels, Tasigur is much easier to answer the turn it comes into play. So because of that, I'm just not playing the Tasigur. So I think that pretty much covers it, and now we'll do some battles.